Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Tone's Market Analysis for Sunday, February 19th, 2017. Welcome to our live viewers. And, well, I'm assuming there's live viewers. Don't see any listed yet, so hopefully there will be. I'm pretty sure I set this video to public versus private. All right, I finally updated the blog, so you can go ahead and check that out. Crypto Scam episode 6 of Ripple is now up on my blog. So is the latest Bitcoin group, where we once again talked about the ETF. I have a lot of commentary on the ETF, and look, I don't think it's gonna pass. I think it's stupid for them to pass it. I guess we'll find out on the 11th. I don't think I'll have time to cover the Bitcoin ETF on my Crypto Scam podcast, even though I don't think the ETF is actually a scam. I just think that it's not needed, and I think it's dumb, and I think it's dangerous. And but I have plenty of content on that. All right, this will be the last time you get to hear me promote my professional trading techniques seminar. It's down in Acapulco. I will be flying out to Mexico Wednesday late night. So I'll probably get one more market analysis video in before I go to Mexico. I will try and do these from Mexico, but those that know me and I'm at conferences, there's just so many people there, and I talk to everyone, maybe a little too much. It's so hard for me to maintain any kind of a life when I'm away at these seminars. I was in Miami for an entire week, and for those events, not once did I get a chance to go to the beach. So that's kind of my life at these events. And the Acapulco conference is great. And if you go there, there's still time to sign up for these. All right. Also, I'm going to promote the movie. We did a live screening of this in Exotica. There was only about maybe 30 people max watching. So please support. You can pay for it in Bitcoin. If you're going to buy it on Vimeo, I still don't know how to say that properly. If you're going to buy it on Vimeo, you can use the discount code TONE, and that will save you about 30%, I believe, on this movie. It's a movie for beginners, so if you're a seasoned Bitcoiner, it's not really, I mean, you're not going to learn much. And I know some of these speakers are pro big blocks, but this everything was filmed before those debates started, and this is way too basic. There's nothing in here about Bitcoin forking. All right, let me pause this. All right, so let's go ahead and start. Again, I've been trying to keep these fairly short. Been trying to talk fairly quickly. Here's the S&P 500. We had a new all-time high daily close on the S&P 500. This 13.9 count, I'll show it on the Dow Jones. It's supposed to lead to a potential pullback. It still hasn't happened. Well, markets are at all-time highs. I can't explain it, but they are. I thought that Thursday's down day would continue a pullback, but Friday reversed all of that. Here's the weekly chart. These were my candles. I was even nervous to draw this arrow all the way to the line. I didn't think it was going to happen this quickly, and I was obviously wrong. It happened even faster than I expected. I don't even know what to do here. I want to redraw these, and there's no reversal candle. Here's a weekly candle. We do have a weekly gap, and I think this gap needs to close. So I'm actually going to drop this bullish candle, and I'm going to draw, well, like I think this gap needs to close on the S&P. Maybe I shouldn't have reversed that candle. But let's see if we go down a little bit over the next few weeks. Earnings season is coming to an end, so maybe the markets will pull back. Here's the daily Dow Jones. That was that 9 I was talking about. And yeah, the Dow closed higher the following day. It's now right here. Oh, I haven't even looked how the futures opened. You know what? Let me do that real quick. Or at least let it load. This way we know, I don't know, maybe the markets are down like 1,000 points. That happened overnight. I have no idea. All right, let me close this. Let me close this. Yeah, so I'm looking for a bit of a pullback. That's still loading. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so nothing catastrophic happened overnight. Gold's down $5. Oil's flat. S&P's flat. Hey, the dollar's going up again. And I'm not sure why the VIX is up, but maybe there's some fear coming into the market there. All right, we can close that. Closing the Dow. Okay, gold. You know what? Let me talk about the weekly gold first. So the weekly gold is just ripe for a pullback, and if it doesn't pull back right here, there's just so much resistance, right? We're just short of a Fibonacci line. We're just short of the 50-week. We're just short of the trend line, and we're just short of prior rebound highs. I don't think gold is going to break all of those. I think gold's going lower. And on the weekly chart, it looks like we have significant resistance at the 200-week moving average, though that hasn't proven to be useful. Like right here, it didn't really do much, and right here it didn't do much, and right here, I mean, hasn't been exact. So maybe it's time for the 200-week moving average to actually act like it's supposed to act. So we will see. Now, here's my little dilemma on the daily chart, right? As regular listeners know, I don't believe in double tops. And while on the weekly chart, it's not really a double top because it happened in consecutive weeks, on the daily chart, it's a double top. So this worries me a little bit because to me, double tops mean it's going to be broken. So it's very possible that this resistance, this Fibonacci resistance that was perfectly hit, can be broken to the upside. Now, I think that we're going down from here, so I am going to move this arrow, but I would not take this bearish trade in gold. And the reason, I probably should have taken it over here, but I missed it. I wasn't paying attention. So the reason I'm not going to take the bearish trade here is because I don't believe the market ever gives you second chances. So because we're back to a daily double top, I think there is a good chance it's now going to go to the next Fibonacci and the 200-day moving average and then go down. Now, it may not. Some people do believe in double tops, and they're looking to short it right here. So for me as a trader, I would not take the gold short at this level or even at this level. Like I would not have taken the gold short at 1245 because of the double top situation. I would either take the short below this 1220 Fibonacci line, or take a speculative short in the 1260 area where the next Fibonacci line meets the 200-day moving average. So that's just my trading style, but everyone is different. Okay, I'm gonna close gold. Oil, very, very quick. It's flat because like they're telling you, and I haven't even been paying attention to the fundamentals. I've just been so busy. They're telling you that they're going to cut production, but they're not, right? So the speculative market in oil, it doesn't know what to do. It's like they keep saying they're going to cut production, but they're not actually cutting production. And the U.S. is becoming a big exporter. So nobody knows what the hell's going on. Technicals still say that you have the inverse head and shoulders, and we go up to the 60-70 area. I mean, unless it proves to me Otherwise, with a weekly close below $50 a barrel, I will assume it's going to go up. Maybe I'll slide this arrow over. I guess I'll just, move this arrow like that. I don't even know, right? I mean, I don't have a trade on oil anymore, but it's flat, so, but still leaning in the bullish direction. Dollar is starting to rise again. It's very, very difficult to short-term time the dollar because it's just the dollar index is just dependent on other global currencies. I thought the pullback might go deeper down to 97, 98. It may have reversed. It may still go down there. There is divergence, which sets a precedent for a deeper pullback, maybe all the way down to 90. And if gold does pull back all the way down to 90, I mean, the gold bulls are just going to go apeshit. And gold might be the big beneficiary, but sooner or later, the dollar is going to go to new all-time highs. The euro is a basket case. You guys heard me talk about it many, many times. I am bearish the euro. I think that's it. And I think the euro going down from here on out is the reason why the dollar is going to go up from here on out. And that's because Le Pen in France continues to gain momentum. And if the speculators, no one is going to wait for Le Pen to win the election because of Brexit and because of Trump winning. The money is going to be on Le Pen winning, right? So in France, unlike Brexit and unlike Trump, where the market surprise was those events happening, I believe in the French election, which is important, the surprise is going to be Marine Le Pen not winning the election. So I think the euro will be speculatively sold into that election. Do I believe it in enough to become a currency trader and go all in on shorting the euro? No, I'd rather go all in long Bitcoin, which I kind of already did. So that means I have no money to go big on either trade at that point anymore. So that's kind of my view. And the same thing will happen in Germany, right? Like the surprise would be Angela Merkel getting reelected, not Angela Merkel being booted out. All right, so that's the euro. Now, the British pound, on the other hand, I believe was grossly oversold because them leaving the euro is a great idea, and or the European, not the Eurozone is a great idea. The European Union, the Eurozone is the currency which they were never in. It's confusing over there, guys. I don't even go there to that region. So I'm looking at for that to go up, and that's why one of my favorite trades, which I attempted to take and failed miserably, is the euro decline versus the British pound, because I think the euro is way overpriced and the pound is way underpriced. Okay, and this is also the last time you'll hear me talk about the Mexican peso because I'm curious since I'll be in Mexico. Well, no, actually, not the last time. You'll hear me talk about it on Wednesday. On Wednesday, it's actually going to be more important because I'll be flying to Mexico that night. And looks like it's stabilized around, bounced off of 20, and maybe I'll luck out. Maybe Trump will say something crazy and like the peso will just get devalued to hell. But I don't want it to get devalued to hell too much. I do care for my safety, and I don't want to deal with, food riots and a currency collapse while I'm there. Okay, Bitcoin. By the way, this is probably a good time for you to start throwing questions into the live chat. Try to begin with the word question in all caps so they're easy for me to recognize. This is the weekly chart. Here's what I like about it, and I can't believe I'm only noticing this now. It happened right here. It happened in December, and I don't remember if I mentioned it on these videos. In December, we had a new all-time high based on the end of week closing price. And that's really important because weekly end of week prices, I don't know how important they are in Bitcoin, But end of week prices are more important in the traditional markets than daily prices. And end of week and end of month prices are more important than end of week prices, and so on, right? So to me, the end of week price in Bitcoin is very important. And we broke that all-time end of week high 2 weeks ago, and we're about to break it again in about 2 hours, right? So unless something catastrophic happens in Bitcoin in 2 hours, we're going to have yet another all-time high in Bitcoin end of week price. And this one is so close to the previous week, while the one back in December was followed by 2 horrible weeks. So to me, this is incredibly bullish, and it's only a matter of time before we go back to new all-time highs. Okay, here's the daily chart. Again, I drew this little red trend line right here. It's still in effect. It's showing you some divergence, but you see we're breaking above it, right? So the RSI is already broken this. The MACD is about to break it, and price is on the verge of breaking it. So I said this wasn't going to amount to much, and it looks like it isn't. I am sticking with my green arrow that I drew in Miami to sooner or later hit the top of this channel. I think the FOMO will set in, even though like Bitcoin Unlimited is just doubling down on their insanity. I think Bitcoin Unlimited will fail. I'm a still believer in Segwit, and I think it's going to happen. Here's the daily chart. I was so happy. Well, not last video, right? Last video was what day? Last video was the 15th, and we were under the channel, so I was like disappointed. I showed this chart Friday night at the end of the Bitcoin group, and I was so happy we were back into my channel and the hourly chart. And as you can see, we are now back below this channel. So now I'm a little sad again. I would like to see this get back into the channel. But if you slightly adjust this channel, it might be worse, might be better. I don't know, right? We're clearly in the midst of another channel. But these channels don't last very long. Like I can draw it right here. Where am I drawing here? Right. I mean, these parallel channels are cute, but I mean, it's Bitcoin, right? I mean, this shit doesn't. Let me change color because it's confusing. I don't even know what to make it. I don't really want to make it blue. Let's make it whatever this is. All right. I mean, they clearly don't last very long because it's an hourly chart, and Bitcoin is so illiquid, especially based on like hourly data, that these channels are somewhat ridiculous. But I draw them anyway. I don't even know why. I mean, one day I started showing an hourly chart because of like 1 or 2 cool patterns, and I guess now I'm just sticking to it. Most of the time, there is nothing to see in this hourly chart. Here's my favorite chart, which is the Brave New Coin Liquid Index, which updates at 8 p.m. every evening. Came up short a little bit on this run up here. I thought we would go back and hit the horizontal resistance line. It's basically the same pattern repeating for the 3rd time. So we'll hit it a little later, and then we'll pull back and then hit it again, I think. So we'll see. This was published on TradingView, so you guys can like fact check me. I don't know, going into June or July. I said that Bitcoin would be 2,000 by August. I mean, I'll let you guys know when I call myself an idiot for getting that wrong. For now, I'm going to stick with that prediction. All right, on that note, I'm done. I'm going to plug the documentary that I was in while I review the live chat, look for some questions. We got about 35 live viewers right now. Hey guys, I'm not really going to review the beginning of the chat. I'll stick around the chat for like the next 10-15 minutes after I cut the video feed. So if you have additional questions, and then maybe I'll look back and skim through it. The chat is only alive for like 10 to 15 minutes after anyway. All right, let's see what questions we got here. I don't know if that's a question. I don't know if that's a question, but I want to comment on it. I don't know who Ira Miller is. Someone got into an argument with that person over Dash. I also don't know what side you were on, but I'm not familiar with Ira Miller. So if somebody can send me a link to who that is and why they're important, I'll check that out. What effect will Segwit not activating have? That's a very complicated and long question. What effect on the price short term? What effect on the price long term? What effect on the Bitcoin network? There's a lot there. Other videos that talk about, and interviews actually. There's a good interview. If you Google the following words, or if you go to my blog, it's even better, and you go to the publication section, if you go to Liberty Life Trail, oh wait, I have it opened. Let me do that. If you go to the publication section of my blog, there's an article that had an extended interview with me. It's right here. If Segwit doesn't pass, it's likely nothing else will. And I talk about what I think will happen if Segwit never passes. And if Segwit doesn't pass, well, Bitcoin just won't scale into microtransactions in a decentralized way. You will still be able to have microtransactions, but they will be like a Coinbase channel, right? Like they're not going to be decentralized. It'll be a KYC'd micropayment channel, right? You wouldn't be able to make micropayments on chain. Transaction fees might go up to, I mean, they can go up infinitely, right? A Bitcoin transaction might cost $100 to send, and that's okay. There will be plenty of people willing to pay $100 for a Bitcoin transaction, and they will be happy to do it. I think Bitcoin will be just fine. I think people trying to prevent Segwit activation have ulterior motives to control Bitcoin, right? Because I think now the harder question for me personally is, Tone, what would you do if Bitcoin Unlimited became the consensus view on the future of Bitcoin? And I don't know what I would do. I want to say I would leave Bitcoin, but I can't say that, right? Because I don't know that I would leave Bitcoin if that happens. I would want to, but I wouldn't know where else to put my Bitcoin. There just aren't any alternatives. And this is what I say when people think, oh, he's a Bitcoin maximalist, But look, my view is that none of the other coins are going to survive. And if Bitcoin hard forks through Bitcoin Unlimited, I don't trust. I would still trust, as much as I will hate Bitcoin, I will still trust it more than I am any of these other altcoins, including Litecoin, including Monero. And those are really like the only two options, right? Unless someone can come up with something better, but it won't matter, right? I'm going to stick with the old chain. I'm going to stick with the Segwit chain. In fact, I want Bitcoin Unlimited to fork so they can like go and, have their own chain that's going to die, right? And I'll stick with the core. Well, like I want those people to hard fork so they can go away and have their own Bitcoin, right? They can call it whatever they like. I mean, they can even call it Bitcoin for all I care, right? As long as there is a Segwit compatible Bitcoin fork, that's all that's important to me, and that's where I'm going to stay, which is no matter what, right? Even if that's 5% of the network, right? I'll become a miner, right? I'll finally invest in a full node, right? Like I just haven't done it because I haven't found it necessary to do it. Like if Bitcoin Unlimited gets 90% of support, which I don't believe they will, I don't think that's possible. But let's hypothetically say Bitcoin Unlimited got 90% of consensus support, right? And fine, there will be plenty of people in that 10%, just like with Ethereum Classic, that will be so happy to take that 10% hashing power of Bitcoin, immediately pass Segwit. They can even lower the block size to 0.5 megabyte. I wouldn't even care less. I couldn't care less, right? They will immediately lower the hash rate with a hard fork. Nobody would complain, right? Because if they only have 10% of the hashing rate, it'll take like 2 days to mine a block. Everyone will immediately agree to a hard fork on the alternative chain in order to have a reasonable difficulty, so that the block time is still approximately 10 minutes to get us as close to stability as possible to the original chain. And that's the chain I would stay on. And I guarantee you there's more than 10% of the people that are like me. The Bitcoin economy would totally crash. The price of Bitcoin would probably fall to like, I don't know, $100, maybe less. And that would be a chance to buy more. Also, if Bitcoin is going to hard fork, the price of Bitcoin will immediately crash, in my opinion, by 40 to 50%, because there will be so many people that are going to be scared, and they're going to get out at the high, thinking that they would buy in at a low after the hard fork. And there will be so many of these people that they're going to panic, and they're going to cause the crash trying to get out first. It's always a self-fulfilling prophecy when it comes to speculators. So all of them will say, oh, I'm going to stick around, and that's not true. A lot of them are going to speculate that they can get in cheaper. They will crash the price before the hard fork. More people will panic after the hard fork, and I will not be buying Bitcoin through regulatory channels. I will hold through it. I will make sure that I'm sticking with the non-Bitcoin unlimited fork and Segwit, no matter how small it is. I will not be buying altcoins to hedge myself. I'm fairly committed. I don't know how many other people are in my boat, but I would say more than one other one. Yeah, that's a complicated question. I'm sure we will be talking about this, months down the line when we're closer to blocks being fuller. All right, another question. If the US government wanted to either stop or benefit from Bitcoin, couldn't the Fed throw large bids at Bitcoin to buy and dry up the future use of Bitcoin? Well, no, not at all, because if the US government starts buying up Bitcoin, they will raise the price of Bitcoin. So people like me that hold some Bitcoin, but not too much Bitcoin, to fly first class, let's put it that way, or try to find the cheapest airplane ticket possible, right? People like me will all of a sudden become fairly rich, and people like me would then spend this money, unlike Roger Viert, who's trying to fork Bitcoin. I would spend that money funding, layers on top, like maybe I wish more people worked on a dark wallet, right? That was, what's his name, Amir Taki and Cody Wilson's project that never materialized because they just didn't have the funding, right? So if I had money, I've lost enough Bitcoin trying to fund projects that I thought were good, but they were terrible. If I am to invest Bitcoin in other projects, I would support Bitcoin Core, or I would support developers for Bitcoin Core. Look, I actually been talking to them more. Blockstream is just one entity contributing to Bitcoin Core. There actually are several others, which I'm learning about now. Again, I'm not a developer. If the Fed wants to help me and make me very rich, I would love to start a little incubator and create another entity like Blockstream, where I hire developers that I like, and these developers will, brainstorm and code and submit this code for approval for Bitcoin Core, right? That's kind of like what some of these other people do. And so that's how I would support the system. So if the government wants to do it, that's great. Now, what worries me with the government, right? It's if they start buying up Bitcoin, that's fine. What's bad is if they start confiscating Bitcoin, right? That's not as good, right? Of course, the government can buy up a bunch of Bitcoin and then dump it on the market, crashing the price. But people will get wind of this. The government has their spying tools, but you know what? We got smart people on our side too. If the government starts buying up Bitcoin, there'll be smart people on their free time figuring this out. What worries me is situations like Silk Road and the situations like the ETF, where there's this large honeypot of Bitcoin that the government might be able to get their hands on and control, right? So for example, let's say the Winklevoss twins get their ETF and it grows and grows and grows to the point where their one ETF is now controlling like 10 to 15% of all Bitcoins under their umbrella, under the ETF. That's going to worry me, right? Because I don't know who the next president's going to be. I don't know what the U.S. economy is going to be, right? What if in 10, 15 years, the U.S. dollar crashes, right? And the government does decide that Bitcoin is a good idea. It's digital gold, right? All of a sudden, the government shows up and forces the ETF entity to hand over all that Bitcoin. That worries me. It's a worry 10 to 15 years down the line, but it's a worry, right? I mean, how is that any different than the government coming in 1930 and telling all the banks, we now have all the gold. It's illegal for you to hold the gold. I know that gold became illegal for the people, but the government never went after the people, right? Because how many people had enough gold worth the trouble for the government to go knocking on doors and taking their gold? That would be stupid, right? But the gold was held by the banks, right? The banks held the gold on behalf of people. And the government said, well, the gold is ours now. Gold is now illegal. So if the government comes in and says, Bitcoin is ours now, yeah, you can use it, but if we catch you using it, you can get arrested, kind of like the gold thing. But there's this entity that's sitting on 15 to 20% of the supply of Bitcoin. And this entity is regulated by the US government. And then the government shows up and says that Bitcoin is ours now. And now they control such a large chunk of the Bitcoin that the users of Bitcoin that have Bitcoin now become very, very scared because the government has it. Now, of course, if all those users start selling that Bitcoin, but again, right, at that point, again, I'm just like speculating here. It's probably ranty, and I'm getting way too like hypothetical and potentially conspiratorial, and I hate conspiracies. But in that scenario, right, government comes in, takes 20% of all the Bitcoin supply because it's in a US-controlled ETF or multiple ETFs, right? Solid X, US entity, Barry Silbert, US entity, right? So they show up at all these institutions, and all of a sudden, 20 to 30% of all Bitcoin in circulation is the US government's, right? The world panics. People sell their Bitcoin, and the government will buy it from them on the cheap, and then the government will announce, well, guess what? Bitcoin is now legal tender, but we own most of it, right? And they control the supply and they control the creation, right? So there's just like these potential avenues. And yes, the people that can then fork, and we can still have a fork of Bitcoin that we're all going to use. But guess what? When Napster went down, it became a free-for-all for music sharing. There wasn't one entity that took over. In the case of Facebook over MySpace, that was different. MySpace didn't collapse. Facebook just organically took their users. Now, if MySpace had imploded, it could have been very different. We might not have had a single platform. All the users could have been split up between Friendster and Facebook, and what, High Five was around, and there were others, right? There were like a bunch of them. Anyway, I'm gonna. It's getting a little ranty on my end, so I'm gonna stop. I don't have a Steam username. I've never created an account, and I don't have a Reddit account either. So if anyone is contacting you guys as Tone Vase on Steemit or Reddit or Bitcoin Talk, it's not me. I can guarantee you it's not me, because I don't have any of those accounts. I barely have time for what I do. The last thing I have time for is accounts on those channels. I'll occasionally go read something on Steam when when someone points me to something I'm supposed to read, and I'll occasionally read something from Reddit, and I'll occasionally read something from Bitcoin Talk, but I'm almost never ever on those channels, and I don't have any accounts to those channels. Do I have any software development skills? Skills? No. I'm a terrible programmer. I took my C++ in undergrad when I got my math undergrad. I also have a geology undergrad degree. And then I programmed a bunch in grad school. I was studying financial engineering. So all of my projects were math and finance and related, and I had to program all of them. I've programmed in a bunch of different languages, C++, I've coded in R, I've used SAS, I've used MATLAB, Mathematica a little bit, though that's not really coding. And then on Wall Street, I was supposed to be coding, but I hated it, so I weaseled out of any coding project. But I tried learning Python. I got bored real quick. I programmed a bunch in Excel, VBA stuff, just to make my life easier. But I haven't programmed at all in like 10 years. I don't like it. It's for some people, not for me. I manage developer teams, but I can never be a CTO, because I want my CTO to have a competency and be a developer. But I was working directly under the CTO because he had too many people to deal with, so I was dealing with those. All right, people say Bitcoin is an unmanipulated market. No, that's totally not true. Bitcoin is manipulated on many levels. To what extent is this really true? Oh, there it is. When there are huge backholder traders, and Bitcoin is fairly manipulated. But just because something is manipulated doesn't mean that it's maliciously manipulated, right? There's like big enough players that can control the market, and we've always had those players. I recommend Googling an interview with Trayvon Shavers on Bitcoin Uncensored, where that's the guy that's going to prison for running a Ponzi scheme, allegedly, out of Texas. And he was able to control the price of Bitcoin for over a year. Like, he would tell people what the price of Bitcoin will be like a week later for loan repayment purposes, and he was able to make that happen. So it's not as easy to do anymore, but there are large enough players that can do it. Bitcoin is not going to end up in the COMEX anytime soon. I mean, like, they need to. I mean, if the COMEX is like the biggest miner in the world, then maybe, but they're not. So it's not happening. What's my opinion on the Dash run up? I don't even know what's Dash at right now. Coin market cap. I don't know. I mean, it feels like the more Dash bashing I do, the better it is for the Dash price. Holy shit, it's at $23. I don't know. I don't know what you guys want me to say. It can go to 50, you can go to 100, right? I mean, Aurora coin went to 100. Okay, And Dash will go to 100 for the same reason that Aurora coin is going to go to 100. That went to $100 a coin. I actually know a lot about Aurora coin. I was watching it very, very carefully at the time. And that's because there's several things involved. And oh, okay, by the way, please watch my crypto scam Dash video. We explain this, right? We explain why this is happening. Dash, it has very good marketing. Whether I agree with it or not is somewhat irrelevant. Dash has good marketing, like OneCoin. Like OneCoin has great marketing, right? It's like you asking me a question about Dash is like, hey Tone, by the time OneCoin implodes, how much money would they have taken in from the world and the people buying educational supplies from OneCoin? And the answer is, I don't know, right? But eventually they will implode. So Dash is going up for the same reason that the OneCoin organization is making money. And I talked about it in my podcast, Crypto Scam Dash. And remember, Dash has a very artificial supply because of the master nodes. So there is a significant amount of Dash tied up in master nodes. So it's not like you can sell every Dash. It's kind of like Ripple or like Steemit was in the early days, or Aurora coin in the early days, where a huge chunk of the coins is actually not there for sale. And it's all speculation because of their amazing marketing. How high can it go? Who knows, right? I mean, you want to trade and profit from it, that's fine. But you have to understand that at the end of the day, Dash is not going to replace Bitcoin. So if you're making money from Dash, great, but that's as far as it goes. Hey, I did answer it. All right, let's see what else we got here. Okay, here's another question. If Bitcoin Unlimited achieves wider adoption, wouldn't it make it harder for governments to shut it down? Wasn't the original goal to have mass adoption and ultra low fees included for the unbanked? No, I think if Bitcoin Unlimited is capable of forking, which they're not, but if they did, I think it would become a lot easier for the government to take over, right? Because first of all, the most important thing that would happen if Bitcoin Unlimited succeeded is the most important and trusted developers, who are not only significantly smarter, in my opinion, are also like less manipulated, and less, less coerced. Let's put it that way, right? I mean, if people pitch this Bitcoin Unlimited nonsense, and to create a smaller pool of developers now developing for Bitcoin, at that moment, the good developers are gone, and you have this group of developers who have just been convinced that they need to hijack the development of Bitcoin. This becomes a much smaller group for the government to then go after and either coerce or put in their own moles, right? Like, a lot of people suspected that Gavin Andreessen and Mike Hearn were government moles programming in Bitcoin. Now, I never subscribed to that conspiracy theory. However, I just thought that they weren't as good as the other guys, that they may have been pushed out, they may have left voluntarily, who knows, right? But a lot of people subscribed to that idea that those two were not to be trusted because they may have been, government could have coerced them to do other things. And that's actually being thrown around for Roger Ver, which I also don't subscribe to that theory. But if the devs that I currently trust disappear and they say, screw this, we failed, you have a completely different set of devs that I don't trust. And I don't trust the people that they may trust. And now I will be mostly scared of government infiltration of the Bitcoin Unlimited team if it hasn't already, but I don't want to spread conspiracy theories or FUD. But that would be my biggest worry. I don't worry about this because I don't think Bitcoin Unlimited will succeed. But if they did, for me, it becomes a much greater government attack vector. Let's put it that way. I got another question. What is the difference between purchasing Bitcoin at a US ATM and a Canadian ATM? It's a huge difference, a gigantic, like the biggest difference, which is what I learned when I was in Canada last week. And the next time I'm in Canada, I might take advantage of this. The KYC, the Know Your Customer laws, are very different in Canada. And I believe, and don't hold me to this because I have not tried it out, but I've been told that when you buy Bitcoin from an ATM in Canada, you don't have to, get a TSA screen check, right? So you might be able to buy it anonymously by putting cash into the machine. If that is true, and you live near the Canadian border, that's probably where you want to buy your Bitcoin. Just try not to cross. And by the way, for Canada, I went to Canada. I go to Canada fairly often. I drove to Canada like 3 years ago, and they asked me, me and everyone in my car, are any of us carrying more than $1,000 in cash? And let me repeat that, $1,000 in cash, right? So be careful how much cash you cross into Canada with. All right, this video is already going long, but like questions keep coming in, so I don't know what to do. And I have 50 viewers right now, so I guess I have to keep answering questions. How many Bitcoins do I own? I don't want to know. I try not to think about it. I don't own that much. I can guarantee you that. Those that met me and hung out with me know that I spend money very, very frugally. So that should tell you that I'm not rich. So I don't own that much Bitcoin. I also, been kind of evangelizing and living like a monk for the last years. And so I haven't had a salary in like a year to 2 years, right? Asking someone how much Bitcoin they have is like asking them, how much liquid assets do you have? How much is in your bank? Only for Bitcoin, it's more dangerous because people can then attack you, go after you because it's a bearer asset, right? Like I'll be more willing to show people my bank account balance than I would my Bitcoin balance, even if my Bitcoin balance was significantly smaller than my bank account balance. And it's not even because it's mostly because I don't worry about being extorted for the cash in my bank account, nor I worry about the cash in my bank account being stolen, other than by the government. But if I tell anyone how much Bitcoin I have, I open myself up to many, many, many risks. And the honest answer is I don't have as much as 99% of the people that know who I am think I have. I have less. Well, whatever you think I have, trust me, I have less. I've also half my Pokemon game has been reset, to quote Joseph and Chris from Bitcoin Uncensored. I have a fair amount of Bitcoin, mostly through my own stupidity. I've also instead of buying Bitcoin, I've done things like open businesses in the New York tri-state area, which in hindsight was a stupid decision. And also bad decisions like doing work for payment and things other than Bitcoin, also not wise on my part. And we learn from our mistakes, and I don't make those mistakes anymore. Do you think Canada will be a Bitcoin safe haven in the future, even though their government seems to be ruled by hypersensitive progressives? I don't think it will be a Bitcoin safe haven for several reasons. One, their government is actually in some ways a little more socialist than the US government. Their currency is also depreciating faster. I mean, Canada might be a little more open to technology. Canada also may not care as much about Bitcoin as the U.S. does. The U.S., is more paranoid than Canada. But here's the biggest wrench in that analysis. At the end of the day, 80% of the world will do what the United States tells them until the United States is broke to the point where those countries aren't in danger of being, sanctioned by the United States or being attacked by the United States, right? So if the Bitcoin became a serious enough problem for the United States, they can put sufficient enough pressure on Canada, privately, not publicly, to adopt the same laws on Bitcoin as US does. So that would be my reason for why, if Canada is a safe haven for Bitcoin at the moment, I don't expect it to last long. This is the same reason why Switzerland is no longer a safe haven for your money, right? I mean, the US eventually told Switzerland, give us the names and of your numbered accounts, and Switzerland gave the names of the numbered accounts, right? I don't see how Canada is any different at all. The balances of all Steemians are public. Do you see that as a good thing or a bad thing? That is a great question. And here's why it's a great question. Maybe I overcomplicate these questions, and that's why these videos seem to last forever. Not all Steemians' balances are public, because not all Steemians are public profiles, right? Like, you know who Charlie Shrem is, and you know who Jeff Berwick is and Trace Mayer is. So you can see their balances. And in order for them to have those nice fat balances is because they are leveraging their status and their popularity to make money. But the early adopters of Steem, like one of the Steem account, the Steem account is controlled by Larimer and Ned Scott, and Ned Scott and then Larimer have public accounts because otherwise, they need to, at least pretend like there's trust in the system. But there are many whale accounts on Steem that mined in the early days that are not public people, and you don't know who they are. Like Smooth, I think, is one, and Steemot, or I don't know, something like that, right? Some of those whales, and you don't even know if they're Dan Larimer. You don't know if they're Ned Scott. You don't know if there are, bullshit accounts, right? So this is the problem that you fall into, like the government, right? It's like the laws on insider trading. You will get busted for insider trading like Martha Stewart, but a US senator is free to insider trade. Because the law doesn't apply to him. So do I think that the balances of the Steem accounts public being good mean to money being somewhat public is good when there is no advantage by those in power? And when it comes to Steem, there's a huge advantage by those in power because those are the biggest holders of Steem, and they're not public people. You don't know who they are, right? So kind of same thing in Bitcoin. It actually wouldn't be too bad. It would be bad, but like, let's say if all of our Bitcoin accounts were public, right? Like everyone would know how much Bitcoin Tone has. Like anybody in the world would know how much Bitcoin Tone has. It's bad, but it's not bad for the same reason that you might think it is. It's, for me, this would be bad because the government would know how much Bitcoin I have, right? So it's not that I can always split up my Bitcoin across 100 different addresses so that no address itself is at risk, right? So when you ask me how much Bitcoin I have, it's in a way I don't want you to know, But more importantly, I don't want the government to know, because the government can take it away from me, or the government can throw me in jail and on contempt of court, saying until you give up all of your Bitcoin and we are confident that you did, you will stay in jail without a trial on a contempt of court law, and they can keep me there for the rest of my life, right? So that's basically the biggest reason for privacy. It's the same view I have on Google. Like, I don't care if Google knows everything about me. What bothers me is the fact that Google shares this information with the government. Because Google knowing my information can only make my life easier, but the government knowing that information can only make my life harder. So that's kind of my view on the whole situation, which is why that Steemit question is more complicated than I think you intended it to be, whoever asked that question. Yeah, Trezor is a good way to keep your Bitcoin. Somebody had a good quote. A man who hasn't made mistakes hasn't made anything. That's true. Also, a man that hasn't learned from his mistakes is also very, very bad. I almost never make the same mistake twice. It's almost never. That's why I lasted so long. That's why I did very well in my Wall Street jobs. I wasn't a good programmer. I wasn't like the best employee. I mean, I was kind of smart, but I was also kind of lazy. I got to be really motivated and then to do something. But I was very reliable, and I never made the same mistake twice. I've made some bad mistakes. Like, I've done some like stupid mistakes where like the CTO would be like basically like cost the company money. But the CTO also knew that I was never going to make that mistake again. And that was also my policy with people that I managed and people that I worked under. I mean, people have made big mistakes. I mean, if the mistake is too big for me not to be able to justify it to my boss, you might get fired. But if your mistake isn't big enough to get fired, what will piss me off is if you make, let's put it this way, if you make a big mistake, that, let's say, cost the company, that had a setback in the company, right? And it doesn't have to have a monetary cost, right? But let's say you made a mistake that caused like 6 other people work 3 hours later on a Friday night. And that's happened, by the way. I've done that. I fucked up, and basically the developer team had to like lose their weekend, right? I mean, like, that's the kind of screw up we're talking about, right? And you don't get paid extra for that, right? I mean, well, you work on Wall Street, you get paid a bonus. It's not an hourly wage here, right? So if someone makes that kind of mistake on my watch, right? They made a mistake, and a developer team had to work through the weekend to fix it. Okay, that was bad. A month later, that the same person makes the same mistake, but only keeps the developer team half the weekend. That would be significantly worse than making a completely different mistake that is keeping the developer team through the entire weekend, right? So I think you guys are following me here, right? So big mistakes are not as bad as the same mistake, even if it's not as bad, but it was the same. And I had people that worked under me that would like make the same mistake over and over and over again. Like, obviously, after you make a mistake, you code shit to make sure that this doesn't happen again. But there's ways to like make the same mistake again, and it wasn't as bad because the first time, or you make the same mistake again, but now people know how to fix it better, so it gets fixed faster. And that pisses me off to no end. And you get fired for that a lot faster than making a different bad mistake. Bitcoin ATM locations outside of Niagara Falls. That's good to know. I actually haven't been to Niagara Falls. I need to go. I was in Toronto recently too, but didn't have time. Do I play chess? I used to. When I was a kid, my parents had me in like chess schools and stuff, but I almost never play anymore. And I mean, like under the age of 10, right? Like after 10, I get bored. I get bored real quick. Like I did martial arts. I was in judo, made it to like, I don't know, halfway up the belts, got bored. I was, chess clubs, got bored. Um, I've gone through like 3 career changes. Like I get bored. Maybe that's why I'm still single. um, yeah, I get bored. The one hobby I've stuck with the longest, and I've had no time recently, is volleyball. Like I was a volleyball player all through high school, in college, and I played on club teams, played in tournaments like beach volleyball tournaments. So I hate beach volleyball; I prefer it indoors. And I stopped playing volleyball in 2015. Or like 16 when I started, when I quit my job and I started traveling for Bitcoin. And I think at the end of last year, people stopped calling me to like, fill in for them on their in their volleyball leagues and stuff, or like play on their teams. And these were like Division 8 teams. They weren't bad teams. They were very competitive. All right. All right, guys. On that note, this has now been an hour. These were very good questions. I enjoyed answering them. I'm really trying to keep these videos shorter because I don't think anyone's going to watch this thing when it's an hour long after the fact. But hey, if you guys want better Q&A, then I'll do it. Right, I'm here for you guys. Oh, by the way, thank you for some of the donations. A few people have given like minor donations. I know I don't usually thank people, so thank you for those. And I have like QR codes everywhere. Once again, please support. Check out Magic Money. If you pay for it on Vimeo. Oh, by the way, one more request. If anyone has the Creature from Jekyll Island on audio, or someone, please reach out to me. What's his name? The guy that wrote it, Griffin, I think. I forgot. He's speaking at Acapulco. I might be speaking directly after him. I would love to brush up on that book, and I do not have. Sorry, there are motorcycles outside my apartment. I do not have the reading. Again, I get bored. I can't read a book. I've read maybe 3 to 5 novels in my life, and most of them were in high school, and it was a struggle. Like I don't read a book. Like if you want me to read a book, you give it to me on tape. I hate reading anything longer than like 3 pages. Yeah, G. Edward Griffin, thank you. If someone gives me the book, it will collect dust. If someone gives it to me on audio, I got a nice long flight to Mexico where I'll be able to listen to it. I actually wouldn't mind debating him on the history of the Fed, because the people that I read have a completely opposite view of him. They hate the Fed also, but there are different ways to explain the history of the Fed, and I like those views better. They make more sense to me. All right, and I hope to see you guys on the next episode. Please support Magic Money, Bitcoin Revolution. I used a discount code TONE on Vimeo to save like 30%. And I will see you all next time. I'll try and release the next crypto scam episode tomorrow or Tuesday. It's not going to focus on a topic in crypto, but it will still be good. And I'm doing my research for Ethereum now. Hopefully that one will be out in the near future. All right, bye-bye, guys.